Hey guys, it's Natalie, and today we're going to be talking about makeup that's overpriced. And this makeup that's overpriced, it's not that it's bad. This is all makeup that I think is really good. A lot of it's actually some of my favorite makeup, but it's just not worth saving up for. There's so much good quality makeup at a lower price point. A lot of this makeup is my favorite makeup. It's stuff that I'm just like, I love it, but it is too expensive, it is overpriced, and I just don't think that it's worth it unless you have that disposable income to buy it with. I kind of want to start with like a couple brands that just everything under the umbrella kind of fits, and the first one's certainly Pat McGrath. Pat McGrath is a brand that's for consumers and also makeup artists. You know, a lot of makeup artists use these and her formulas and stuff, and they're very artistry forward in terms of color story, but they're also rather approachable and consumer driven. You know, you buy them at Sephora. These are the 10 pan large mothership palettes, and you do get a ton of product in them. Like, there's a lot of product in here. These are really big pans, and they're actually like deeper pans as well, so especially with like the baked ones, there's a lot of product going on in this palette. But $125, and her newest one is $129, which is like, why do you feel the need to increase the price again? It's not a complaint, it's just that it's ridiculous, and it is kind of like a piece, you know? It's like, oh, I have my mothership palette, it's very heavy, this on the back is like metal, like it's cool to the touch, and you know, it has this like beveled mirror in here. It's really fancy, it's luxurious, but can you get similar things at other price points? Yes. I think you are getting an extra special touch with Pat McGrath. There's something about her personal color theory, the way she sees textures and finishes, but you know, there's a lot of indie brands to come out with things that are very similar to her toppers. I think of like Terra Moons and JD Glow and Cleonid, those kind of indie brands that have sparkly topper shades or like really opaque sparkly shades, stuff like that. That's comparable to Pat McGrath's like special shades. Pat McGrath has come out with these a couple times. These are like the mothership quads. They have 4 shades instead of 10, and they're a good alternative if you want to have a little piece of Pat McGrath, but you're like, I'm not paying $125, you know, for the whole thing. They're a good alternative for sure, but they're still like $60, and I don't know, is it totally worth it? That's for you to decide. I do really like them a lot. It's a better way to have a little piece of Pat McGrath if you kind of want that taste of the luxury, or you just kind of are curious about the formula. There's nothing wrong with them, and I do really like them. So it's a good way to have like a nice packaged Pat McGrath thing for a lower cost, even though it is still expensive. Natasha Denona. Natasha Denona is a weird one because her pricing is all over the place. So these are her big palettes. This is the gold, which is $129. You get a ton of product and a lot of option in this, so it is something to consider. These are definitely more artistry forward, as you can remove the pans in her palettes and whatnot, and also the packaging is very sleek like this, so you know, you can put it in a makeup bag or something. But Natasha Denona is unique. I do think that her quality is really good. It doesn't work for everyone. It definitely, depending on how you apply your makeup, might be different. Sometimes people say the mattes are hard to work with because they're sort of powdery and creamy at the same time. For me, it's my favorite, but if it doesn't work for you, then it's kind of like, you know, a big waste. And I do love all of her shimmers. They're really interesting. And with Natasha Denona, you are definitely paying for her artistry touch. She has a really strong grasp of color theory and color stories, and so you're paying for her expertise in tone. Any of her large palettes I feel are probably not worth it. Like, they're certainly overpriced, but she has lots of other options. Like, she has these midi sized palettes that are the same concept, as in there's 15 pans, but they're not really expensive. They're like $65, so they're more a typical palette of this size cost. She also has mini palettes that are these 5-pan ones, and I think these are probably the best option if you're interested in Natasha Denona, unless one of the midi palettes like really calls to you. But I really love the gold and the love, so these are really good, and there is no deviation from the other formulas. A lot of people say that the mini palettes aren't the same. They just don't find them to be the same quality. I don't think that's the case. I do really like these, and I think they're really good. And then she also has like larger 5 pans. These pans are the same size as the large pans in like the gold palette. They're like the full size pans that are really big. And these are 40 something dollars, so they're definitely on the pricey side for just 5 colors. But I guess if a color story really calls to you, the shades in all of these 5-pan palettes are shades picked out from her giant palettes, the ones that are like $200 and something, which is crazy. But they're all like shades picked out from those palettes. So if a color story is like, ooh yes, you know, $48 is more reasonable than $240. Victoria Beckham Beauty. Now, I love Victoria Beckham. I love Victoria Beckham Beauty, and I think that there is something unique happening here. But these are like $50 and they're so small. I was actually shocked when the house, like, I had heard it was really small, but like that small. They're like only 3 inches across or something. They're truly like the size of a business card. And you know, you are getting this like really luxe packaging. This is probably like the fanciest packaging out of any makeup product I've ever seen. It's very reminiscent of like old makeup. It's so small. And this one was really interesting because it's very thin. It's not super pigmented, and it kind of just blends itself. Like you put it down and it's like you're done. So it is really good, and it's quick and easy, and I definitely think they're good for people that aren't like spending a lot of time doing a makeup look. Like this is my favorite palette to reach for if I'm just like, oh, I need to put something on, you know, and like get out the door. So these are really nice for that, but they are really expensive. I do think these are like $50, and it's a little bit ridiculous just how small it is. I do really like lots of things from the brand. It's so small, come on. And this one's in the shade Signature, which is just so pretty. But Tom Ford, in my opinion, Tom Ford is like the most overpriced brand, even more than something like Pat McGrath, because you can break down things like Pat McGrath and Natasha Denona as like cost per gram of product. With Tom Ford, this is like $90, and you know, I hear some people rave about these quads. They are really pretty. This did make it into my favorites of last year. I do really like it. It's something I reach for a lot. It's just ridiculous. I haven't really bought much else from Tom Ford except for the Gloss Luxe, which I don't know if they discontinued any of these or what. This is in the shade Exquise, and these are also like $50 for a lip gloss. They were like my favorite lip glosses. Like they are really nice, they're really good, but like even if you wanted luxury, you can get that like luxury lip gloss experience for less. And there's something about the whole Tom Ford thing that turns me off. I think these are the only 2 things I have from Tom Ford, and I'm really not going to get anything else. I like them a lot, and I think they're very good. There's just something about the Tom Ford tone, the experience, I don't know, it just turns me off from the whole brand as a whole. There's a certain point where it's not worth it, where, you know, Tom Ford isn't a makeup artist. You're not really paying for an artistry expertise, you're really just paying for a name. And I think that's what turns me off the most from something is, you know, in the case of Victoria Beckham, they are doing more sustainable packaging and they're focused on clean beauty, whatever that might mean. There's other things kind of happening there, and you're also definitely paying for Victoria Beckham's name. But with Tom Ford, like, you're really just paying for Tom Ford's name. You know, I like these things, but they're not like the most amazing thing I've ever used. Like when you touch a Pat McGrath palette, when you put your fingers in it, when you're swatching those colors, putting them on your eyes, you really feel like, wow, you're having like a makeup experience. It's like euphoric. And Tom Ford just like doesn't give me that. It's very, you know, neutral. You can kind of find similar things elsewhere, but I like them and they're lovely, but I just won't be purchasing from Tom Ford again because purchasing for someone's name is not worth it to me. This brand is almost one that I feel a little bit sad about mentioning, and it's Chantecaille. I love everything I have from Chantecaille. I think that their formulas are some of the best ones, and I don't know, I really love the things I have from Chantecaille. I've never been disappointed in anything I've had from them. It's just really expensive, and you know, once again, they don't really have a makeup artistry component. Their component is the ingredients and philanthropic efforts, like they donate money to wildlife places. I feel like that still doesn't necessarily justify the price. This Chantecaille Eye Quad, you can see first of all how small the pans are. This is originally $75. They come out with these every so often for different collections. I did buy it on sale, like a really good sale. I wouldn't have bought it full price. And even on the sale price, I was kind of like treating myself. Their formulas are really beautiful. I truly love them. I am really interested to see more mattes from them. They don't come out with mattes often, and this quad has a matte in it, and it's like one of the best mattes I've ever used. And then they do have kind of like pretty tones, interesting colors. It's just the pans are so small. This thing is so small. It's ridiculous. It is. Cheek Duo, which I do love this one. There's something happening with these like Baked Gelée formulas here that's just perfect, but is it worth like 90 bucks? No. And then they do have the luminescent eye shades, which I have several of, and these are like my favorite single shadows for just like a little shimmery chic moment. And these are like 50 something dollars just for the one eyeshadow. You know, you get like nice packaging. They donate some amount of money to wildlife efforts. I'm not really sure how much, but you know, it's overpriced. So yeah, that's all the makeup that I'm like, this is way too expensive for what it is. Obviously, you can buy anything you want to with your money. I've purchased all those things and I love them a lot, but they're not a necessity. And I think it's really important to make sure that we're like, you know, when we fawn over a Pat McGrath palette, be like, you know what, if you can't afford it, like, forget about it. It's a pretty thing. Maybe just kind of look at it. Usually what I do when I'm like really into little pretty makeup things is I go to the store or like the makeup counters and I swatch them there and I get my fill of them and then I'm over it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.